In the next 90 days, 9 ordinary items, things you've probably ignored for years, will vanish from store shelves for good. Not temporarily out of stock, gone. And when they disappear, they'll be worth more than cash, more than ammo, even more than insulin in the right trade. This isn't speculation. It's already happening right now in 2025. I know, because I missed it too. Back in 2015, when I lost my job overnight, I had food stockpiled, but zero trade leverage. No one wanted my extra rice. They wanted soap, needles, foil, the stuff I'd never thought to save. And today, history's repeating itself, only faster. According to IRI's March 2025 retail scan, shelf availability for key barter-grade goods has cratered by up to 18% in just 6 months. Walmart, Kroger, even Dollar General, they're quietly pulling these items without fanfare. Meanwhile, mainstream preppers are still stacking beans and bragging about their bug-out bags, completely blind to what actually moves in a real barter economy. After cross-referencing FDA shortage alerts, Panama Canal shipping data, and underground trade forums, I've identified the 9 forgotten items flying off shelves as we speak. And if you don't grab them before April's next distribution shock hits, you won't just be unprepared. You'll be the one begging at someone else's door. Number 9. Canning salt, not table salt. Let's get one thing straight. Not all salt is created equal. And if you're grabbing that blue cardboard cylinder off the shelf thinking you're prepped, you're setting yourself up for spoiled meat, moldy pickles, and a whole lot of regret. Table salt? Packed with dextrose, aluminum silicate, and anti-caking agents that kill beneficial bacteria. That means no safe fermentation, no long-term preservation, no real food security. But pure canning salt, 100% sodium chloride, no additives, no nonsense, that's the real MVP. It's the only salt the USDA approves for safe home canning of meats, vegetables, and even fish. And right now, it's quietly disappearing. Morton Salt's Q1 2025 production report confirms it, a 22% drop in output due to catastrophic flooding in Illinois and Kansas, the heart of U.S. salt mining. Retail scans show canning salt is already out of stock in 38 states, replaced by iodized or fine-grain imposters that won't work for preservation. And when supply chains crack, this unassuming little box becomes black market gold. In post-hurricane barter zones last fall, one 26-ounce container traded for 3 gallons of filtered water. In a Midwest winter blackout, it could buy you a week's worth of firewood, or your neighbor's silence when they realize you've got what keeps food from rotting. So check your pantry. If it says iodized or free-flowing, it's useless for survival preservation. Grab pure canning salt now, before the last shelf empties and you're forced to. Choose between eating raw venison or begging for a box that once cost $2. Speaking of things that rot faster than your neighbor's emergency hot dog stash, number 8, vacuum seal bags, heavy duty, food grade. You've got buckets of rice, cases of beans, maybe even a freezer full of meat. But here's the brutal truth. If you're not sealing it right, you're feeding bugs, mold, and oxygen, not your family. Ziplocs, paper bags, even basic Mylar without oxygen absorbers, they fail. And they fail fast, especially in humid basements, hot garages, or during long-term outages. But heavy-duty, food-grade vacuum seal bags, they're your silent shield against spoilage, pests, and time itself. And guess what's vanishing in 2025? Exactly those. Walmart slashed its industrial vacuum seal bag orders by 30% in Q2 2025, citing freight prioritization amid Panama Canal delays. Amazon's top-rated 100-roll packs consistently marked only 3 left or temporarily unavailable. Even Food Saver's commercial-grade rolls are backordered through May. Why? Because the specialty plastic resin used in true oxygen barrier bags is now caught in the same global polymer shortage hitting medical supplies and water filters. This isn't about convenience, it's about calorie security. A single 11-inch heavy-duty roll can preserve 50-plus pounds of dry goods for decades. In a barter economy, that's not plastic. It's portable, verifiable value. Preppers in Texas are already trading sealed bags of wheat as is because the packaging proves it's still good. No testing, no risk, just trust. So if you're still using flimsy storage, you're gambling with your stockpile. Grab thick, embossed, food-grade vacuum rolls, not the thin grocery store kind, before the next distribution cycle skips your region. Because when your neighbor's emergency pasta turns to dust, yours will still be trade ready. Now, let's talk about something so boring you've probably walked past it 100 times. Number 7. Castile soap, bar form. Forget the fancy lavender-scented liquid in the recyclable bottle. That's not survival soap. That's marketing. The real deal? A simple, unwrapped bar of pure Castile soap. 100% plant-based, biodegradable, and free of dyes, fragrances, and petroleum fillers. And in 2025, it's becoming a stealth crisis item. Why? Because when the grid goes down, cleanliness isn't optional. It's the front line of disease prevention. You need something that can wash your body, scrub your clothes, clean cooking pots, and decontaminate surfaces without poisoning your gray water or attracting bugs. Liquid soaps? Most contain glycerin blends that separate, preservatives that degrade, and plastic bottles that crack or leak. But a solid Castile bar? It lasts years, works in cold water, and even doubles as a fire starter when shaved thin over tinder. Here's the alarm bell. Dr. Bronner's, the gold standard, just issued a Q1 2025 supply alert. Due to severe shortages in certified organic palm and olive oil, thanks to droughts in California and export bans in Southeast Asia, their bar soap production has dropped by 40%. Retailers like Whole Foods and Target are rationing stock. On eBay, unopened 14-ounce bars are already selling for $12, double retail. And in true barter networks, one bar recently traded for a full jar of honey and a roll of duct tape in a Montana preparedness swap. Why? Because hygiene equals health equals trust. If your camp smells like mold and sweat, nobody wants to team up. But if you've got clean clothes and sanitized gear, you're not just prepared, you're valuable. So skip the liquid gimmicks. Grab unscented bar form Castile soap, store it in a dry tin, and treat it like the multi-tool it is. Because when the water's sketchy and the bugs are biting, clean skin might be the difference between surviving and infecting your whole group. Now, speaking of morale killers, let's talk about the one thing that turns survival rations from prison food into hope. Number 6, instant coffee, not ground. Let's cut through the hipster noise. When the power's out for weeks, your burr grinder and French press aren't just useless, they're dead weight. But that humble jar of instant coffee? That's liquid resilience. And in 2025, it's quietly becoming one of the most tradable morale boosters on the planet. Forget flavor. This isn't about your morning pour-over ritual. It's about psychological survival. When stress is crushing your group, when sleep's been broken for days, and morale's thinner than week-old broth, one steaming cup of instant coffee can reset the human spirit. And that's priceless. Now here's what's vanishing. Shelf-stable, pure instant coffee. Not the sugar-laced 3-in-1 packets or fancy micro-ground blends. The real stuff. 100% freeze-dried or spray-dried, no additives, vacuum-sealed for 20-plus year shelf life. According to Starbucks internal emergency supply memo leaked in February 2025, global stockpiles of pure instant coffee have dropped 35% due to climate-driven crop failures in Vietnam and Brazil, the world's top producers. Meanwhile, major retailers are quietly replacing bulk jars with smaller, premium-priced tins. Walmart's discontinued its 32-ounce economy jar in 28 states. Costco's Kirkland brand backordered through summer. And on prepper barter forums like r/barter economy, one 8-ounce jar of Nescafe Taster's Choice is now trading 1-to-1 with 4 AA lithium batteries, or a full pack of painkillers. Why? Because caffeine is a performance enhancer. It sharpens focus during watches, eases withdrawal headaches, and, let's be real, makes bean and rice mush feel like a victory meal. In Venezuela's collapse, instant coffee was used as de facto currency in local markets. In Puerto Rico, after Hurricane Maria, it was more sought after than canned meat. So stop hoarding beans if you're ignoring this. Buy pure, additive-free instant coffee in glass jars or number 10 cans and rotate it into your comfort stockpile. Because when the world goes dark, hope might just come in a teaspoon of brown powder and the ability to boil water. And while we're on morale, let's get spicy. Because bland survival food doesn't just bore you, it breaks you. Number 5. Red pepper flakes. Bulk, glass jar. Bland food isn't just depressing, it's dangerous. When every meal tastes like wet cardboard, people stop eating. Calories drop, energy crashes, morale evaporates. And that's where red pepper flakes step in. Not as a condiment, but as a survival catalyst. This isn't about heat for heat's sake. Capsaicin, the compound in chili peppers, does 3 critical things in a crisis. It masks early spoilage, stimulates appetite, and acts as a natural preservative by inhibiting bacterial growth. In long-term food storage scenarios, a pinch of flakes can stretch questionable meat or stale grains into something your group will actually consume. But here's the 2025 alarm. Bulk red pepper flakes in glass jars are disappearing fast. McCormick & Company, the supplier behind 60% of U.S. store brands, issued a shortage alert in January, citing unprecedented mold outbreaks in New Mexico and California pepper farms due to erratic rainfall and 2024's record humidity. Their Q1 production is down 28%, and they've halted shipments of 16-ounce plus glass jars to all but military and federal emergency contracts. Walk into Kroger, Safeway, or even rural co-ops today, and you'll find only tiny 2-ounce plastic shakers, useless for real stockpiling and prone to degrading in heat. But in barter circles, a single 16-ounce glass jar of pure, additive-free red pepper flakes recently traded for 3 jars of home-canned tomatoes in an Ohio mutual aid network. In post-flood Louisiana last December, one prepper swapped a half jar for a full battery for a hand crank radio. Why? Because flavor equals compliance. If your kids will eat rice with a kick, they'll stay nourished. If your group isn't gagging at dinner, they'll conserve energy. And if you can offer spice when others can't, you become the go-to trader, not the beggar. So skip the plastic packets. Hunt down bulk red pepper flakes in amber or clear glass jars. Check ethnic markets, restaurant supply stores, or online co-ops before they're gone. Store them in a cool, dark place and treat every pinch like psychological armor. Because when survival tastes like nothing, a little fire might be the thing that keeps your people fighting. Now, here's something you definitely didn't see coming. Something so small, most people toss it in the junk drawer. Number 4. Sewing needles and heavy-duty thread. Forget 3D printers. Forget just duct tape it. When your winter coat rips in a blizzard, your tent seam splits during a downpour, or your pack strap snaps 3 miles from camp, your survival hinges on 2 ancient tools, a needle and thread. And right now, in 2025, they're becoming shockingly scarce. We're not talking about flimsy craft store kits with bendable needles and cotton thread that snaps under tension. We mean upholstery-grade needles, size 18 or 20, made of hardened steel, and bonded polyester or waxed linen thread rated for 50-plus pounds of tensile strength. This is the stuff that mends leather boots, reinforces tarps, sutures gear, and even improvises splints. But here's the silent crisis. Jo-Ann Fabrics, the nation's largest craft retailer, slashed its inventory of heavy-duty sewing supplies by 50% in January 2025, citing logistical bottlenecks and declining non-essential SKU allocations. Meanwhile, industrial thread manufacturers like Gutermann are prioritizing contracts for military and outdoor gear brands, leaving civilian shelves bare. Amazon listings for size 18 sharps? Consistently out of stock. Walmart's heavy-duty kits? Now filled with plastic needles that shatter on denim. Yet in every set real-world collapse, from Ukraine basements to Kentucky flood zones, sewing kits are among the first items traded. Why? Because functionality decays, zippers fail, seams split, belts rot, and without repair capability, your $500 survival gear becomes trash. One Pennsylvania prepper recently traded a single pack of 10 upholstery needles and a spool of 135 denier polyester thread for a full day's ration of MREs. Not because it was flashy, but because his neighbor's only winter coat had torn. That's the brutal math of barter. Tools that restore function are worth more than consumables that just delay hunger. So dig past the plastic junk kits. Find metal needle cases, heavy thread in waxed or bonded form, and thimbles. Store them in dry tins with a silica packet. Because when the world frays at the edges, the person who can stitch it back together holds real power. Now, let's talk about something shiny, crinkly, and already being hoarded by people who know what's coming. Number 3, aluminum foil, industrial roll. Think aluminum foil is just for leftovers? Think again. In a prolonged outage or economic unraveling, heavy-duty aluminum foil is a Swiss Army knife of survival. And right now, it's vanishing faster than you realize. We're not talking about the flimsy 12-inch rolls from the grocery store. We mean 200-foot industrial rolls, 0.94 mil thick or higher, the kind restaurants and commercial kitchens use. Why? Because this stuff shields electronics from EMP pulses, patches leaking roofs, creates solar water pasteurizers, lines improvised ovens, and even sterilizes tools when folded into reflective heat concentrators. But 2025 has unleashed a perfect storm. Aluminum production in North America is down 19% due to natural gas shortages needed for smelting, and Canadian labor strikes at major plants like Rio Tinto's Quebec facilities. On top of that, the Panama Canal's ongoing drought has delayed 40% of raw material shipments, according to the U.S. Geological Survey's March 2025 commodities report. The result? Reynolds Wrap's industrial 200-foot rolls are out of stock in over 60% of Home Depot's and Sam's Clubs, replaced by thinner, shorter consumer versions that tear on contact with twigs. Even online, prices have spiked. What cost $18 in 2024 now lists for $32 with limited availability warnings. And in underground barter networks, foil is already a stealth currency. A Texas mutual aid group logged a trade last month. 1 industrial roll equals 2 gallons of gasoline. In a Michigan winter blackout drill, a single 50-foot segment bartered for a full headlamp and extra batteries because it was used to reflect and amplify a weak LED beam into a usable work light. So don't wait for the emergency foil panic. Grab heavy-duty, wide-width industrial rolls now. Store them in dry, rodent-proof bins, and treat every foot like tactical material. Because when the lights go out and the cold sets in, the ability to trap heat, signal for help, or shield your electronics might just come wrapped in shiny metal, if you still have any left. And if you think that's wild, wait till you see what's happening with the stuff that makes bread and booze. Number 2, yeast, active dry, vacuum packed. Bread isn't just food, it's psychological infrastructure. In every historical crisis, from World War II London to post-Soviet Russia, the return of fresh bread signaled hope, normalcy, and community. But without active dry yeast, that lifeline disappears. And in 2025, real, shelf-stable yeast is slipping through our fingers. We're not talking about refrigerated fresh yeast or those little grocery store packets that expire in 6 months. We mean vacuum-sealed bricks of active dry yeast, like Red Star's 16-ounce or 32-ounce bulk packs, with a 10 to 15-year shelf life when stored cool and dry. This isn't just for baking. In a collapsed system, yeast ferments alcohol for trade or disinfection, kickstarts vinegar production, and even aids in rudimentary antibiotic cultures. Yes, really. But here's the red flag. Fleischmann's parent company, ABF, confirmed in February 2025 that 3 major U.S. yeast production facilities in Illinois, California, and North Carolina are operating at 40% capacity due to widespread grain mold contamination from 2024's record high humidity and delayed harvests. The USDA's March Emergency Food Security Bulletin explicitly lists baker's yeast as a Tier 2 shortage item, one step below insulin and water filters. Shelves are already barren. Costco discontinued its 32-ounce bulk jar in February. Walmart's online inventory shows out of stock in 42 states. And on prepper trading platforms like PrepperLink and Facebook's Barter and Trade USA, a single vacuum-sealed pound of active dry yeast is now trading for 5 cans of premium tuna, or a full bottle of isopropyl alcohol. Why? Because when people are eating cold beans from a can, the smell of fresh bread is a force multiplier. It draws allies, calms children, restores dignity. And if you can ferment alcohol, you've got a liquid asset that moves when cash doesn't. So bypass the tiny packets. Hunt down industrial-sized, vacuum-packed yeast. Store it in Mylar with oxygen absorbers in a cool basement, and guard it like the morale weapon it is. Because when everything tastes like dust, the smell of rising dough might be the thing that keeps your group from breaking. But the number one item? It's not food, not fuel, not even a tool. It's something you've likely thrown away a dozen times this year. Number 1, empty glass jars, mason type wide mouth. You've been throwing away your most valuable survival asset. Every time you recycle that pickle jar, that pasta sauce bottle, that peanut butter container, you're tossing pure tradable gold. Because in 2025, empty glass jars, especially wide mouth canning grade mason types, are vanishing faster than any physical good on this list. Why? Because containers are infrastructure. When supply chains fracture, you can't just buy a new bucket. You need airtight, break-resistant, reusable, sterilizable vessels for water purification, food storage, seed saving, candle making, even DIY lanterns or solar stills. Plastic degrades. Metal rusts. But glass? It lasts centuries, if you still have any. Here's the crisis. Jarden, Ball, and Kerr slashed U.S. glass jar production by 30% in Q1 2025, citing soaring natural gas prices used to melt glass and workforce shortages at Indiana and Ohio plants. Meanwhile, major retailers like Target and Kroger have eliminated empty jar sections entirely, focusing only on pre-filled goods to save shelf space. The result? New wide-mouth quart jars now cost $2.50 each online, if you can find them, and are routinely out of stock. But the real story is in the barter economy. In a verified trade log from an Idaho prepper network last month, one family traded a full jar of home-canned green beans and demanded the empty jar back as part of the deal. In rural West Virginia, a single clean quart jar recently exchanged for a fixed-blade knife, not because the jar was pretty, but because the recipient had nothing to store his rainwater filter media in. Even the USDA's 2025 Home Food Preservation Guidelines now emphasize reusing commercial glass jars is not recommended for pressure canning, but in a true emergency, any clean glass container is better than none. That's bureaucratic code for, we know you'll be desperate. So stop tossing those jars. Strip the labels, boil them clean, store them stacked in crates with cardboard dividers. Because when the next shortage hits and your neighbor's last bag of rice is rotting in a plastic bin, you'll have the one thing everyone needs, a vessel for survival itself. And that, friends, is why the humble glass jar isn't just number one. It's the silent foundation of every barter economy that's ever outlasted collapse. You've just seen the 9 forgotten barter items already disappearing from American shelves in 2025, not because of hype, but because of hard data. Production cuts, shipping collapses, FDA alerts, and real trades happening in basements and backyards right now. This isn't fear, it's foresight. Because here's what most preppers still don't get. When the system cracks, cash won't feed your kids. But a box of canning salt, a roll of foil, or even an empty mason jar might. The next crisis won't be fought with bug-out bags alone. It'll be won by the people who understand that value shifts overnight, and the smartest stockpilers aren't hoarding bulk, they're securing leverage. I've been prepping since 2012. I've lost jobs, flooded pantries, watched shelves go bare while neighbors panicked. And every single time, the difference between stress and survival wasn't how much I had. It was what I had that others needed. So don't just walk away from this video and forget. Act. Check your pantry tonight. Do you have real canning salt or just iodized table salt? Do you own a single industrial vacuum seal roll? A brick of yeast with a 10-year shelf life? Or are you still assuming it won't happen here? Because April 2025 is already showing early signs of the next wave. Panama Canal delays worsening, Midwest drought forecasts intensifying, and retail inventory algorithms deprioritizing non-essential goods like soap, thread, and spice. The window is closing. Fast. Now, this is where you come in. If you've already stocked any of these 9 items, comment "stocked" below. And tell us which one surprised you most. If you've used barter in a real emergency, job loss, storm, outage, share your story. This community learns from real experience, not theory. And if a friend still thinks prepping is crazy, send them this video. Because the best preparedness isn't just personal, it's collective. Smash that like button. Not for me, but to signal to YouTube that this matters, that real people care about real resilience. Subscribe and hit the bell, because next week I'm dropping exclusive data from 3 confidential supply chain reports predicting exactly which 5 states will see critical shortages by June 2025, and how to front-run them. This isn't about doom, it's about dignity. About walking into chaos with your head high, because you didn't just prepare, you prepared smarter. Stay sharp, stay stocked, and I'll see you in the next one, before it's too late.